Hi, welcome to another of Rob's strings and things. This afternoon I've got an acoustic guitar to show you. It's a guitar I've had for probably 53 years now, so it's quite a vintage instrument, and it was bought in New York in about 1967-68, and here it is. It's made by a company called Aria. It's an Ariana model 3103, made in around about 1966, so probably a year or so before I bought it in New York. Anyway, so it's got an interesting history. Aria obviously still quite a big instrument maker now, guitar maker and other guitar accessories. Interesting history, as all these Japanese companies who made guitars have an interesting history. This was started by Shiro Arai. The company itself was a trading company in the mid-50s, and he was a big classical guitar enthusiast and imported guitars and strings. And eventually, and also took some Japanese guitars to America, really to kind of demonstrate how good they were. Unfortunately, when they were put into the, if you like, the environmental conditions in the States, where it was much drier, some of the guitars started to split, and they didn't look very stable. When Mr. Arai came back to Japan, he decided he would try and make some guitars, or at least set up a company selling guitars made in Japan. And obviously he's made both classical guitars, steel string guitars, and particularly these days also electric guitars. Now, quite where the original acoustic guitars were made, both the classical and the steel string guitars, it's not clear. But there was a big company that Aria worked with for a long time, Matsumoku, who were in the vicinity, who made a lot of guitars for Aria. So I suspect these very early guitars, this would have been one of the very earliest guitars that Shiro Arai made. It probably was made by a Matsumoku company for Arai. This is interesting because its name, its brand is Ariana, and I think really just looking through the very few bits of information about these guitars that there is on the net, it looks as if Ariana might have been the name that they used for their acoustic instruments, because there are some Ariana classical guitars and just the occasional Ariana steel string guitars turn up on eBay and in auction houses, but they're not very frequently found, and really it's very difficult to find about anything about Ariana from the web. Just to tell you a bit about the guitar, I'll say it was bought about 1967-68. It has a solid pine top. It has laminated back and sides. These are mahogany laminations. The wood, the lamination is about 2.5 millimeters thick, and it has a rosewood fretboard, a rosewood bridge, and over the years, obviously, because I've played it a lot, I've had to do a few renovations on it. So a few years ago I refretted it. The frets got worn out, so I refretted it. The machine heads got worn out, so I put new machine heads in it. And also I made a new nut for it. I had a new nut made for it, a bone nut made for it. And also I inserted a piezo pickup under the bridge, which wasn't an original feature, and obviously the electronics to go with it. So very interesting instrument, obviously a vintage instrument now, and as from tone, I'll play some tones in just a moment. One of the interesting things about this guitar really is that it always has had really rather mellow tones, a lot of mid-range in this guitar, which of course is always dependent upon the kind of strings you put on it and the way you play it, of course. At the moment, this has Martin Foster bronze strings on. They're a little bit. They're not brand new by any means. They've been played a bit on it. So I'll just start off by playing you some tones on it, both obviously with the acoustic mic and obviously through the piezo pickup. Then I've also got some sort of close-up pictures to show you over a kind of backing track that I recorded to back up a song that I've written a little while ago. But what I ought to say is that this guitar has huge sentimental value for me, because it was bought, as I say, in 1967. My then girlfriend and I were strolling through the lovely city of York, came across the instrument shop there, Banks's Music, which is still in York, so good on for Banks. Saw this guitar in the window, went in and played it. Lovely guitar. Up to that point I'd made some guitars for myself. They weren't very good, but at least I was able to learn a few chords and to accompany some songs and things like that. Then I bought a big jumbo guitar, which I didn't have for very long. It was dreadful. You could have put a banana under the strings. The string height was so high, it was virtually unplayable. I sold it actually, so I'm very sorry to the person who bought it, because they wouldn't have progressed very much with it. And this guitar was lovely. And as I was saying, when I played it in Banks's shop, I certainly didn't have the money on a grant to buy it. But unbelievably, my girlfriend then bought it for me, and she didn't have very much. It might have blown all her grant buying this guitar for me. But it was such a lovely thing to have done, and of course I've had it ever since. The happy ending to the story is, of course, that a few years later she and I got married, and we're still married more than well, just a bit less than 50 years now, but we've known each other for a bit longer than I've had this guitar. So I say it's an enormous sentimental value, this instrument, something which I hope would be a family heirloom. Anyway, enough of that, and let me just play a few tones for you on it. First of all, just some fingerstyle, then a bit of plectrum guitar. Let's have a go here. So as I said, it's got really an amazingly mellow tone, and it's always had this. So I'll now just play a few strummed chords with a plectrum, give you a very different kind of feel for how the guitar plays. Okay, so when I've recorded that, I've recorded obviously of the mic here, and obviously a straight line out of the guitar into the interface here and straight into Reaper, so I can play the two sounds from it independently. So there it is, an Ariana model 3103. I suspect there are not many of these around, but beautiful guitars. Very nice to have a nice beautiful grain on this top. And now I'll show you a few still pictures of this guitar, showing you various bits and pieces of it to a backing track. So I hope you'll stay with me, but in the meantime, thanks very much for watching this video. I really appreciate it, and all the best to you. Bye for now.